on my mission, there were lots of hard days, you know. For me, the rain was the worst. I hated walking in the rain. I felt like I knew it was a bad day if it was like 7 o'clock and all the appointments fell through and I was walking in the rain. And there the streets flood a lot because they don't have a lot of good sewage systems. So if it's raining, the puddles just, you know, pile up high, and then next thing you know, you're walking knees up to your knees in water, and you don't know what's in that water. Anyways, I just hated the rain, and I hated serving as a missionary in the rain. Just those days were the worst. But and it's hard when appointments fall through and people lie to you and tell you they're not home, and a lot of that happens, by the way. It's got to be prepared and not be hurt when people reject you. You can't take that personally. You just have to remember they're not ready for this, and it's not me. And even if they yell at you, it's probably not that they hate you, it's they hate some experience they had associated with the church, or they're bitter about something in their life. Anyways, so hard days, just trying so hard to do your best and thinking, you know, if I'm obedient, if I'm doing everything I can, I should have success. And when nobody gets baptized, it's really hard. And I just had to realize that I couldn't blame myself for the success that wasn't happening. But a really beautiful thing I learned on my mission was that when I was having those hard days and everything seemed to go wrong and I was exhausted and my bones were aching walking through that wet rain and not being able to get into a house, or having all the appointments fall through, I had to remind myself, something good is coming, this is worth it. Because I feel like, we learn through the scriptures, there's always this opposition before something good happens. Joseph Smith felt like he was in the depths of darkness before he saw the light of Christ and the Father. He felt like he was on the verge of dying and being consumed by darkness. And I believe it was Moses as well who felt like he was just going to collapse in this opposition of Satan, before he was able to see so many marvelous things and have that amazing spiritual experience. And I think that's a pattern for our lives. I remember before my mission preparing, there was so much opposition, so many random things happening that made me feel like the winds of hell were whirling around me, keeping me from going on a mission. And just on my mission, I felt like there were those hard days, but I learned this pattern, and it's good to be aware of the pattern because it's always going to happen. You're going to have rough days before something really awesome is going to happen. And it's usually, you're not going to get that little gem without fighting for it. And so I remember being in a certain area, and just, that was the hardest. It was just dark. It was just a lot of rainy days, and it was just one transfer. It was a beautiful area, but so many things just weren't working. It was this really small branch. So we were just the missionaries were the ones holding that branch together. We were doing the callings because there were not enough faithful members to keep it running. So I was like young women's president, sometimes teaching primary, and branch president was just learning things. So I remember being discouraged and finally getting a few investigators that I thought, wow, something can really happen. Like they're progressing, and being encouraged and thinking, wow, they're going to get baptized. And then next thing I know, we get a phone call that we're going to be transferred, my companion and I, and that they're actually closing down that area for the sisters. And it just broke my heart. I thought, I've been working so hard and all of this for nothing. Like, I thought, what was the point of my serving in that area? Just the dark, puddle, rainy days? Like, I just didn't get it. I was so confused. And I thought, these investigators, what's going to happen to them? And I guess they didn't necessarily close our areas, but they did for the sisters. They had us take our investigators and hand them over to the other elders that were in that area. So we gave them all of our teaching records, and we said, okay, take good care of these investigators. And we even walked them around to show them where they lived, because, addresses don't really work there. And I just moved on to my next area, even though I didn't really want to be there. I thought, okay, whatever. Hopefully that wasn't all in vain, because I felt like it was all in vain. And then the last day of my mission, a random elder I didn't know came up to me, and he said, "Sister, do you remember Juana? And do you remember this family? And do you remember this individual, Carla?" All of these random different people I was teaching at that time, all of them had gotten baptized. And I was so happy. The joy just burst out of my heart. And I thought it wasn't all in vain. And I remember going through my journals And reading about the days that when I first taught Carla and when she said she knew the Book of Mormon was true and that she wanted to join the church, reading the journal entry the night before was that really rainy day that was really miserable and dismal. And then, reading about this woman, Juana, that I'd met, who, being really discouraged the day before, reading that journal entry, and it was one of the hardest days. And then the next day, I remember thinking, we got to find new people. Let's walk down this way. And we just randomly started walking in a different neighborhood, and I thought, let's go knock on this door. And there's this woman, Juana. Actually, her daughter had opened the door, and so we started teaching her, and we started teaching her something randomly about forgiveness. I think she was hurt by someone in her life, and we kind of sensed that by asking questions. And so we just gave her a really simple 10 to 15 minute lesson. I think we had read a few scriptures about forgiveness and, letting go of bitterness. And she let us keep coming back. And we had a really hard time getting through, the restoration lesson and the typical lessons, because we just kept coming back and teaching little things that we felt like applied to what she was going through. And at first we were just teaching her and her daughter, but we knew she was affiliated with another religious group, and we knew she was really faithful, but we were like, wow, she's listening to us. But we couldn't get her to come to church because she was still very faithful in her other church. And by the time, I think we had asked her if she had gotten an answer from praying about the Book of Mormon, and the last time I had heard from her, she said she felt like she had read some scripture in the Bible that led her to believe that the Book of Mormon wasn't right, after she had prayed. And I can't remember which scripture it was, but when I read it, my interpretation was that the Book of Mormon was true, but I think she was so scared that she flipped the interpretation. Anyways, so that was my last impression of Juana, but I still loved her so much that we had the elders meet her. And my last day of my mission, this elder told me about Juana and how she had joined the church, and how her daughter had joined the church, had gotten baptized, and was up there on Sunday bearing her testimony about the beautiful sisters that showed up at her door. And I really didn't have faith that Juana would get baptized. I really didn't think so. I was just teaching her because I thought, she's somebody that we have. And you just really don't know. You can't decide for people what's going to happen. You can't give up on that persistence. And I haven't been in touch with her. I need to find her information, but that was just filled my heart with joy. And then another thing I have to share about that area is there was a couple we were teaching and they were going to church, and we thought, this is going great. They had accepted a baptismal date, and then we had showed up one day and the wife had just turned us away. She was so angry because her brother had died, and she was angry at God, and she was angry at us, and she didn't want anything to do with God because she was so hurt. And that was the last I'd ever seen of her. And so that was another reason I was discouraged. So we never got to teach her again. But then when I had talked to that elder my last day of my mission, she said, that family got baptized. The whole entire family is baptized now. I'm so happy to hear that. And then another woman who had so we were teaching her, she accepted to be baptized. And then we said, will you come to church this Sunday? And she said, oh, you know what? I just got a new job and I only work on Sundays. And I just thought, this is so frustrating, whatever. And then I got transferred, and that's all I heard from that. I just thought, she's never going to get baptized because she's only going to work on Sundays. That last day of my mission, that same elder said, Carla got baptized. And I don't know how they pulled it off, but God can work miracles. So there are so many things that you don't know the influence you have. And you can't wait for little rewards. You can't wait to see the success, because that's not what serving is about. It's not about, oh, I gained all these prizes. I have all these names, all of these baptisms to my name. It's not about that. And I'm really grateful that I was able to see. It wasn't necessarily, I think the Lord showed me at the end of my mission just to teach me, yes, I accept the service that you've done, and you have made a difference. And I was just happy that all those dark days paid off, and that even if they didn't pay off in the way that I wanted to, it's important to remember that God still, He accepts your service, and that even if you don't feel like you were a very valuable missionary, in some strange way that you have no idea, you really were, and maybe you won't ever know for your whole life.